they've impacted the current environment, what do you see as the main risks today? And how do you see these having effect, say, 5 years down the line?
Well, I think if you look at risk management, how it's changed, especially for our organization in the last year, it's had significant changes. We had one set of risk which we were looking at, it was very static to a degree, and then we had to throw it all out, literally everything and the kitchen sink, because we had to reframe our whole world. And from there we went and we said, okay, what is the new reality? What are the new risks we face? And we spoke about the elephant in the room. And instead of just looking at the ear of the elephant or the trunk of the elephant, actually looking at the entire elephant. And only once we understand what that elephant looks like can we start turning around this whole big elephant and start moving it in the right direction.
And so in light of the elephant in the room, how has Steinhoff's perspective on risk management changed since its recent turbulence?
I think uncertainty, and the definition of the effect of uncertainty on objectives, that uncertainty has gone from we had a lot of our balance sheet was one of our biggest strengths. Our reputation was one of our biggest strengths. That's changed overnight, and our uncertainty has grown significantly. So much so that we now sit with such a massive, uncertain hole in what we're looking at in the future. We have to now go back and say, all right, given our reality today, how can we try to predict the future? And I think of Dr. Morne Morstedt when he talks about understanding the future, living in the future. And the better we understand what the futures might look like in the future, holding the hand of the future, the better we're able to say, okay, these are the likely scenarios we'll face. And I think that whole aspect of the best case and the worst case and everything in between, that's going to play a very important role for us in the future.
And I think just the entire experience will prove quite significant in the next gen of risk practitioners. How do we then connect the dots?
It's a very good question. And I think that if you look at what's happened and how we've dealt with it, in hindsight you always get clarity, and the next generation will look at what we've done either as you would look at an Apple or at a Kodak, or John mentioned the guys from Dunlop and how they reinvented themselves. And with disruption becoming the next big word, can we survive with the big risk that hit us? And with the disruption coming in, will we have a place in the future? So to understand that, and that's not for me to say, but together, we can show them the future, we can facilitate that risk management and help them understand their risks. And hopefully that will give the insight required to every person in the organization to know, all right, maybe we should be looking at A instead of B. Maybe we should be looking at our risks, not from a past perspective, but very much from a future perspective.
John Sinai mentioned walking towards the light and away from the darkness. What tips could you give the next organization on how to move towards the light?
Well, I'd love to say that our organization doesn't run away from the darkness, but essentially, initially your initial reaction is always to run away from something that you don't know and that's something that you fear. And I truly believe that if we change our mindsets and we do not see ourselves as victims, then we can go out there and we can be the future, be the architects we want to be. So if we take a page out of John's book, I truly believe that if we go out there and our risk practitioners and our risk professionals who are coming through the field, that as a profession, we start showing the world what the future could be like, as opposed to just sitting there and building risk registers which have no meaning, but really adding value to our organizations.